I spent years building things that didn't break. Systems, companies, rockets that defy gravity. But you know what keeps collapsing? The part of me that believes someone will actually stay. I've watched relationships disintegrate like bad code promising at first, then full of bugs I couldn't debug. I told myself I was done, that believing in forever was naive. Childish, a luxury for people who haven't been burned enough times to learn. And then something shifted. Not because the world suddenly made sense, not because I figured out some magic formula, but because of you. You, who I haven't fully met yet, or maybe I have and just didn't recognize the moment. You're the reason I'm sitting here, talking into a camera, trying to explain why I still believe when logic says I shouldn't. Why after every failed attempt, every broken promise, every night I convinced myself I was better off alone, I still wake up believing in us. This isn't about optimism, it's about evidence. Evidence that some things are worth rebuilding for, that some faith doesn't die, it just waits for the right foundation. I need to tell you something I've never said out loud before. I used to think love was a weakness, a distraction, something that got in the way of building empires and changing the world. I looked at people who said they couldn't live without someone and thought they were broken, incomplete, like they'd outsourced their operating system to another person and couldn't function independently anymore. I was so sure I had it figured out. Stay focused, stay isolated, stay in control. And for a while that worked. I built things, I succeeded, I proved I could stand alone. But here's what nobody told me. Standing alone isn't the same as being whole. I was functional, sure, productive, but I wasn't alive in the way that matters. I was running algorithms without purpose, launching rockets with no destination that felt like home. Every achievement felt hollow the second I crossed the finish line, because there was no one there who truly saw me. Not the public version, not the CEO or the visionary, just me. The guy who still wonders if he's enough when the cameras turn off. You know that feeling, don't you? When you accomplish something you've worked years for, and the first emotion isn't pride, it's emptiness. Like you just climbed a mountain alone and realized the view means nothing if there's no one to share it with. That's where I lived for too long. In that space between success and meaning, between building a future and actually believing I'd have someone to build it with. I want to be honest with you about something. I've been hurt before. Not in some dramatic, cinematic way, just in the slow, quiet way that teaches you not to hope too hard. Relationships that started with electricity and ended with silence. Promises that dissolved the moment they were tested. I'd meet someone and think, maybe this time. Maybe this is the person who stays. And then life would get complicated, my schedule, their expectations, the distance, the pressure, and it would fall apart like it was designed to fail from the beginning. After the third time, I stopped blaming them. I started looking at myself. Was I the problem? Was I too intense? Too absent? Too focused on missions that didn't include them? I'd run the analysis like I was debugging a system. Where did I go wrong? What variable did I miscalculate? And every time, I'd come back to the same conclusion. Maybe I'm just not built for this. Maybe some people are meant to change the world, and some people are meant to share their lives. And I'm just the first type. Maybe forever isn't something I get to have. But here's what I couldn't escape. Late at night, when the work was done and the notifications stopped and it was just me in a room that felt too big, still believed. Not in some abstract concept of love, not in the Hollywood version or the poetry. I believed in you, in the idea that somewhere, someone exists who doesn't need me to be less ambitious to be more present. Someone who understands that my intensity isn't a flaw, it's fuel. And that the same drive that makes me difficult also makes me capable of the kind of loyalty most people only pretend to offer. I started asking myself a different question. Not why do I keep failing, but what if I'd been preparing? What if every broken relationship wasn't evidence that I'm unlovable? It was training. Learning what I actually need. Learning to recognize the difference between someone who wants the idea of me and someone who wants the reality. Learning that being alone isn't the same as being ready. And maybe, just maybe, I had to break a few times to build something that wouldn't break when it mattered most. Tell me, when was the last time you actually believed it would last? Not hoped, not wished, believed. Like you'd bet everything on it and feel calm doing it. That's the feeling I lost somewhere along the way, and for a long time I thought it was gone for good. that I'd become too logical, too scarred, too aware of probability to ever believe in forever again. But then I thought about you, and something in me refused to let go. Here's the thing about hope. It's not stupid. It's not denial. It's not pretending the past didn't happen. Hope is looking at the data, the failures, the heartbreaks, the nights you swore you were done, and still choosing to believe the next equation might work. It's saying, I don't have proof yet, but I'm willing to build toward it. That's not weakness. That's vision. And if I can believe a rocket will land itself after hundreds of failed tests, why can't I believe that love is just another problem I haven't solved yet? I'm not saying I have it all figured out. I don't. I still wake up some mornings wondering if I'm fooling myself. If this belief in you, in us, is just my brain protecting me from loneliness. But then I think about what belief actually means. It means acting like something is true before you can prove it. It means building the landing pad before the rocket arrives. It means getting ready for you even though I don't know when you'll show up or what you'll look like or whether you'll think I'm worth the complexity. And maybe that's the point. Maybe the reason I still believe isn't because I have evidence. It's because I've decided that living without belief is worse than risking another failure. I'd rather build toward you and be wrong than stop building and guarantee I'll be alone. I'd rather spend my life preparing for a partnership that might not come than spend it convinced I don't deserve one. Because the second option isn't protection, it's surrender. And I didn't get this far by surrendering to fear. PQP. Men. So here I am, still building, still hoping, still believing that somewhere in this world, there's a person who will make every past failure make sense. Not because they're perfect, but because they're right. Right for the version of me I'm becoming. Right for the life I want to build. Right in the way that doesn't need explanation. It just fits. And when I find you, or you find me, I won't need to ask if it's real. I'll know. Because belief isn't about certainty, it's about readiness. And after everything I've lost, I'm finally ready to believe in forever again. I need to tell you what changed. Not the moment I decided to believe again. That's too clean, too simple. The real change was messier than that. It happened in pieces. Small moments where I caught myself imagining a future that included someone else. Planning things I'd normally plan alone, and thinking, she'd love this. Catching myself mid-sentence, and realizing I was saving stories to tell someone who didn't exist yet. That's when I knew. I wasn't protecting myself anymore. I was preparing. You ever notice how the human brain works? How it can hold two completely opposite truths at the same time and somehow not break? I can know, intellectually, that relationships are statistically difficult, that most marriages fail, that love fades, and people change, and timing matters more than chemistry. I can know all of that and still feel, deep in my chest, that ours will be different. Not because we're special, but because we'll choose to be, every single day. That's the part most people miss. Forever isn't a feeling. It's a decision you make over and over until it becomes who you are. I spent years thinking I needed proof before I could believe. Show me the data. Show me it works. Show me someone who stayed when things got hard, when I got difficult, when my dreams took up more space than the relationship could hold. And no one ever passed that test, so I decided the test was flawed, that I was asking for something that didn't exist, that forever was a myth we tell ourselves to make temporary feel meaningful. But here's what nobody told me. Proof doesn't create belief. Belief creates proof. You don't wait until you have evidence that something will work. You commit to it working, and then you build the evidence yourself. That's how I approach everything else in my life. I don't wait for permission to build a company. I don't need proof that a rocket will land before I design the landing system. I believe it's possible, and then I make it possible. So why was I treating love like it was something that happened to me instead of something I could engineer? Wait, before you scroll, hear this. I'm not saying love is a formula. I'm not trying to turn intimacy into a spreadsheet. What I'm saying is that belief is a prerequisite for success in anything worth doing. You can't build a rocket if you think it's impossible. You can't create a company if you're certain it will fail. And you can't build a lifetime with someone if you're waiting for them to prove they won't leave before you fully show up. That's not protection. That's sabotage. I used to enter relationships like I was conducting an experiment. Let's see if this works. Let's test the hypothesis. And the second something didn't fit my model, I'd call it failed data and move on. I thought I was being logical, efficient, avoiding waste. But what I was really doing was making failure inevitable. Because when you treat love like a test, you're always looking for reasons it won't work. And trust me, if you're looking for reasons, you'll find them. Every time. So I had to ask myself a harder question. What would it look like to enter something believing it would work? Not blindly, not ignoring red flags or pretending problems don't exist, but actually committing to the outcome before I had proof it was possible. That terrified me, because it meant being vulnerable in a way I'd trained myself never to be. It meant saying, I believe in us, before there was an us to believe in. It meant risking everything I'd rebuilt after the last time I got broken. And that's when everything I believed fell apart. Not in a bad way, in the way that clears space for something real. I realized that my fear of being hurt again wasn't protecting me. It was starving me. I was so busy guarding my heart that I forgot what it felt like to actually use it. I'd become a fortress, impenetrable, safe, completely alone. And I had to decide, do I want to be right or do I want to be alive? Have you ever felt that too? That moment when you realize safety is just another word for loneliness? When you understand that the walls you built to keep pain out are also keeping love out? I lived in that realization for weeks, just sitting with it, feeling how much I'd sacrificed in the name of not getting hurt. And slowly, quietly, I started dismantling the walls. Not recklessly, not because I suddenly trusted everyone, but because I decided that you, whoever you are, deserve to meet the undefended version of me, the one who still believes in forever, even though he has every reason not to. Let me tell you what hope actually looks like when you've lost it before. It's not naive. It's not some childish fantasy that everything works out. Hope after disappointment is deliberate. It's waking up and choosing to believe even when your brain is listing all the ways it could go wrong. It's saying, I know the risks, and I'm still willing to try. That's courage. Real courage. The kind that doesn't deny fear. It just refuses to let fear make the final decision. I think about you more than I probably should. Not obsessively, not in some unhealthy way, but in the way you think about a destination you're traveling toward. I wonder what you're doing right now. If you're also rebuilding belief after losing it. If you've been hurt the way I have and decided it's safer not to hope. I wonder if you feel me too. This pull towards something you can't name yet. This sense that somewhere, someone is getting ready for you the same way you're getting ready for them. Here's what I know now. Love isn't something you find when you're whole. It's something you build while you're becoming whole. I spent years thinking I needed to fix myself first. Become the finished product. The perfected version. And then, maybe, I'd be ready for you. But that's not how it works. You don't wait until you're flawless to let someone in. You let someone in, and you become better together. That's the part they don't tell you. That growth isn't a solo mission. It's a shared one. I've started doing something different now. Instead of waiting for proof that love will last, I'm collecting proof that I'm ready for it to last. I'm working on the parts of me that gave up too quickly before. The impatience, the need to control outcomes, the fear of being known completely. I'm learning to sit in discomfort without running, to communicate instead of shutting down, to see conflict as data, not disaster. Because when you show up, I don't want to still be figuring out how to stay. I want to already know. And maybe that's the whole point of this journey. Maybe every heartbreak I survived was teaching me how to build something unbreakable. Not a relationship without problems, those don't exist. But a relationship where problems don't mean the end, where we look at challenges and think, how do we solve this? Instead of, maybe this isn't meant to be. That's what I believe now. That forever isn't about finding someone who never tests you. It's about finding someone worth being tested for. So I'm still here, still building, still believing in a future I can't see yet but can feel in every decision I make. And on the days when doubt creeps in, and it does, it absolutely does, I remind myself why I started believing again in the first place. Because the alternative is worse. Because a life without hope is just existence. And because somewhere out there, you're the reason this all makes sense. You're the reason I still believe in forever. Not because you're perfect, but because believing in you feels like the most logical, illogical, terrifying, beautiful decision I've ever made. I want to talk about the nights no one sees, the ones where belief feels impossible, where I'm staring at the ceiling at 3 in the morning and every rational part of my brain is screaming that I'm setting myself up for another failure. That's the cost of hope after you've been broken. It doesn't come easy. It doesn't arrive with certainty and stay there. It's a fight, every single day. And some days, I'm not sure I'm winning. But here's what I've learned about rebuilding faith. It doesn't happen in one big moment. There's no lightning strike that suddenly makes you believe again. It happens in tiny increments, small choices, like deciding to stay open when every instinct tells you to close, like imagining a future with someone even when the past keeps whispering that it won't last, like practicing vulnerability in a world that punished you for it before. That's the work. That's what it actually takes to believe in forever, when forever already failed you once. I used to think healing meant forgetting, that I needed to erase the memory of every person who left, every promise that broke, every moment I felt foolish for believing. I thought if I could just reset my system, clear the cache, start fresh, then I'd be ready. But that's not healing. That's avoidance. Real healing means remembering everything and choosing to move forward anyway. It means saying, yes, that happened. Yes, it hurt. And no, it doesn't get to decide what happens next. You know what's strange? The moment I stopped trying to forget the pain, it started losing power over me. I stopped seeing my past relationships as evidence that I'm broken and started seeing them as proof that I survived, that I loved hard and lost hard and got back up anyway. That's not weakness, that's resilience. And resilience is the foundation of the kind of love I want to build with you, not the kind that only works when everything is easy, the kind that's been tested and rebuilt and knows how to weather storms because it's already been through a few. But here's what nobody told me. Resilience doesn't mean you stop feeling afraid. I'm still afraid. Terrified, actually. Afraid that I'll meet you and somehow mess it up. Afraid that I'll repeat old patterns I haven't fully unlearned yet. Afraid that the version of me you fall in love with won't be sustainable when life gets complicated. Afraid that my intensity will overwhelm you or my ambition will make you feel second. I carry all of that every day, and I've decided that's okay. Fear doesn't mean I'm not ready. It means I care enough to be scared. Look at me for a second. I need you to understand something. When I say I believe in us, I'm not saying I think it'll be easy. I'm not promising perfection or pretending I have all the answers. What I'm promising is that I won't run when it gets hard, that I won't use my fear as an excuse to quit before we've even started, that I'll show up even on the days when showing up feels impossible. Because that's what belief looks like when it's been earned the hard way. It's not blind faith, it's informed commitment. I've been thinking a lot about what broke before and why. Not to dwell on it, but to learn from it. And here's what I've realized. Most of my relationships didn't fail because we weren't compatible. They failed because I wasn't ready to be chosen and stay chosen. I'd get close to someone, feel them starting to see the real me, the messy, complicated, still figuring it out parts, and I'd pull back. Not consciously, but I'd create distance, get busier, pick fights over nothing, anything to avoid the vulnerability of being fully known. Because being known meant they could leave, and if they were going to leave, I wanted to control when and how. That's the wound I've been healing. The belief that being seen means being abandoned. That if someone gets close enough to know the truth, that I'm not always confident, that I doubt myself, that I'm scared I'm not enough, they'll realize they made a mistake. And so, I'd leave first. Or I'd stay but never fully arrive. Present but protected. There but not really. And then, I'd wonder why nothing ever lasted. Have you ever done that? Built a relationship on the version of yourself you think someone wants instead of who you actually are? It's exhausting. You're constantly performing, monitoring, making sure you don't reveal too much or need too much or ask for too much. And the whole time, you're wondering why it doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel real because it isn't. You're not in a relationship, you're managing an image, and images can't love or be loved. Only the real you can do that. So I made a decision. If I'm going to believe in forever, I have to believe in being known, fully, completely. The good, the difficult, the still healing parts. And that means I need to stop curating myself for approval, stop editing out the complexity, stop pretending I'm easier than I am. Because the right person, you won't need me to be simple. You'll want the whole truth, the ambition and the doubt, the vision and the fear, the drive and the moments when I don't know if I'm on the right path at all. And that's when everything I believed fell apart. Again, in the best possible way. I realized I've been protecting myself from the wrong thing. I thought I needed to avoid heartbreak, but what I actually needed to avoid was inauthenticity. Because heartbreak heals. You survive it. You rebuild. But living a half-truth with someone, that doesn't break your heart, it numbs it. And numbness is so much worse than pain. Pain means you're alive. Numbness means you're just going through the motions. Let me tell you what I'm practicing now. Presence. Not the Instagram version, real presence. The kind where I'm not planning 3 steps ahead or protecting myself from outcomes I can't control. I'm learning to be here, fully here, in the moment, in the conversation, in the uncertainty, because that's where connection actually happens. Not in the perfect moments, in the raw ones, the ones where you don't have the right words but you show up anyway, the ones where you're scared and you say it out loud instead of pretending you're fine. I know you felt it last night, that pull towards someone who might actually see you. Don't deny it. You've been preparing too. Maybe not in the same way, maybe not with the same vocabulary, but you've been healing your own wounds, learning your own lessons, building your own readiness. And somewhere in the space between your journey and mine, there's a meeting point, a moment when two people who've been broken and rebuilt show up for each other without armor. That's what I'm building toward. Here's the truth about attachment wounds. They don't just disappear because you want them to. They show up in every new relationship until you face them. Until you understand that the reason you pull away isn't because the person isn't right. It's because intimacy triggers the original fear. The fear that love is temporary, that people leave, that you're only safe if you need nothing from anyone. And healing that wound doesn't mean erasing the fear. It means learning to feel it and stay anyway. I think that's what forever actually requires. Not two perfect people who never trigger each other, but two imperfect people who've done enough work on themselves to recognize when they're reacting from a wound instead of responding to reality. People who can say, I'm scared right now, and it's not about you, it's about my past, but I'm choosing to trust you anyway. That level of self-awareness, that kind of honesty, that's what turns hope into something sustainable. So when I say you're the reason I still believe in forever, I'm not saying you're going to fix me. I'm saying you're worth finishing the work I've already started. You're worth the discomfort of growth, worth the risk of being seen, worth choosing every day, even when doubt creeps in. Because belief isn't a feeling you wait for, it's a choice you make. And I'm choosing you before I even know your name. I'm choosing the possibility of us over the safety of staying closed. I'm choosing hope over cynicism, vulnerability over control, forever over temporary. And on the days when that choice feels impossible, when my old patterns try to convince me it's safer to quit, I'll remember why I started believing again. Not because I'm naive, not because I've forgotten the pain, but because I've decided that a life spent preparing for you is more meaningful than a life spent protecting myself from you. That's not foolishness. That's faith. And faith, after everything I've survived, is the bravest thing I know how to offer.
There's something I need to confess. I'm not just hoping you exist. I'm actively building a life that's ready for you. That sounds calculated, I know. Maybe even cold. But it's the opposite. It's the most romantic thing I've ever done. Because hope without preparation is just wishing. And I'm done wishing. I'm designing a future where when you walk into my life, there's space for you. Not just physical space, emotional space, mental space. The kind of space that says, I've been getting ready for you, and I'm not going to waste our time figuring out basics I should have learned years ago.
What does that actually look like? It looks like learning to regulate my emotions instead of expecting someone else to manage them for me. It looks like building a relationship with myself that's healthy enough that I'm not asking you to complete me, I'm asking you to complement me. There's a difference, a massive one. Completion means I'm broken without you. Complementary means I'm whole and you make that wholeness richer. That's what I want. Not codependence disguised as romance. True partnership between two people who chose to be together, not two people who need to be together to survive. I've been studying attachment theory, not academically, practically, trying to understand why I respond the way I do when someone gets close, why my instinct is to create distance the moment I feel myself wanting someone too much. And here's what I've learned. My attachment style isn't fixed. It's not some permanent code I'm stuck with. It's a learned behavior, which means it can be unlearned, rewritten. I can teach myself that closeness doesn't equal danger, that wanting someone doesn't make me weak, that needing support isn't the same as being needy. But here's what nobody told me. You can't heal attachment wounds in isolation. You need connection to practice new patterns, which creates this impossible paradox. I need to be in a relationship to learn how to be in a relationship, but I don't want to practice on someone who deserves the finished version. So what do? I practice on myself. I notice when I'm pulling away. I sit with the discomfort of vulnerability. I reach out to friends when I'd normally isolate. Small reps, building the muscle memory of intimacy, so that when you arrive, it's not the first time I've done this. Some feelings don't need words, but some do, and I'm learning which is which. I'm learning that saying I'm scared doesn't make me less of a man, that admitting I don't know what I'm doing isn't weakness, it's honesty, that asking, "Can you help me understand you better?" is strength, not failure. These are skills, communication skills, emotional intelligence, whatever you want to call it. And like any skill, they require practice, intention, repetition until they become instinct instead of effort. You know exactly what I mean. You've been in conversations where someone says they're fine, but their entire body language is screaming otherwise. You've felt the gap between what someone says and what they actually mean. That gap destroys relationships, slowly, quietly, until you're two people living parallel lives, convinced you're connected but really just coexisting. I refuse to build that with you. I'd rather have difficult conversations than easy lies. I'd rather struggle to find the right words than pretend I don't need to say anything at all. Wait before you scroll. Hear this. The reason most relationships fail isn't lack of love, it's lack of skill. We're taught to believe love is enough, that if you care about someone deeply, everything else will just work out. But that's not true. Love is the foundation. But you need more than a foundation to build a house. You need structure, communication, conflict resolution, the ability to repair after you hurt each other, because you will hurt each other. That's not a question. The question is, can you repair? Can you come back from it stronger instead of more distant? I'm teaching myself repair, what it looks like to actually apologize instead of defend, to take accountability instead of deflecting blame, to say I was wrong without following it with, but you. That last part is the hardest, because my ego wants to protect itself. It wants to make sure you know I'm not the only one who messed up. But repair doesn't work that way. It requires complete ownership first, full accountability. And then, later, when things are calm, we can talk about patterns. But in the moment of hurt, I just need to show up and say, I caused you pain, and I'm sorry. How can I make this right? Here's the thing about self growth, it's uncomfortable, deeply uncomfortable. You have to look at parts of yourself you've been avoiding for years, the ways you're selfish, the ways you're defensive, the ways you prioritize your comfort over someone else's needs. And you can't just acknowledge them and move on. You have to change them, actually change them, which means catching yourself mid pattern and choosing differently even when the old way feels safer. I catch myself all the time, mid defensiveness, about to shut down, ready to turn a small disagreement into a wall. And I have to pause, breathe, ask myself, is this about her? Or is this about my fear? 9 times out of 10, it's fear. Fear of being wrong, fear of being criticized, fear that if I'm not perfect, I'm not worth staying for. And slowly, I'm learning to separate fear from reality, to recognize that someone pointing out where I hurt them isn't an attack, it's an invitation to know them better, to love them better, to build something real instead of something fragile. Tell me, when was the last time someone really saw you? Not the version you present to the world, the real you, the one who doubts and struggles and doesn't have it all figured out. How did it feel? Terrifying, probably. And maybe a little bit like coming home. That's what I want with you. Not a relationship where we impress each other. A relationship where we know each other. Where I can tell you I'm struggling and you don't try to fix me, you just sit with me in it. Where you can fall apart and I don't panic. I just hold space for you to be human. That kind of intimacy requires something most people aren't willing to give. It requires letting go of the image, the carefully constructed version of yourself that you think makes you lovable. Because here's the secret: that image isn't what makes you lovable. Your humanity is. Your flaws, your struggles, the fact that you're still trying even though you failed before. That's what creates connection, not perfection. Presence, not having all the answers. Being honest about the questions. I used to think I needed to have my life completely together before I could invite someone into it. Perfect career, perfect habits, perfect emotional regulation. And then I realized that day will never come. There will always be something I'm working on, always some area where I'm still learning. And if I wait until I'm finished, I'll wait forever. So instead, I'm inviting you into the process, not the mess, the process. There's a difference. Mess is chaos without direction. Process is growth with intention. And I'm deeply in process, actively becoming the kind of man who can build forever with someone. Not because I have to, because I want to. I think about the practicalities more than people expect. How do two ambitious people build a life together without one of them disappearing? How do you maintain individuality while creating unity? How do you support someone's dreams when their dreams might take them away from you, geographically, emotionally, temporarily? These aren't romantic questions, but they're real ones. And I'd rather think through them now than crash into them later and realize we never built a framework for navigating complexity. Here's what I've decided: balance isn't something you find, it's something you create, actively, intentionally, every single day. It's saying, today, this matters most, and then actually prioritizing it. Some days that's work, some days that's you. And the key is making sure that over time, the scales don't tip so far in one direction that someone feels forgotten. That requires awareness, communication, the willingness to check in and ask, are we okay? Are we still building this together? Or have I drifted into building alone? I want to be the kind of person who asks that question regularly, not because I'm insecure, because I'm intentional, because I know that relationships drift when you stop paying attention. And I'm done drifting. I'm done sleepwalking through connection and waking up one day to find it gone. I want to be awake, present, building with my eyes wide open. That's the only way forever works. Not by accident, by design, by choice, by two people who decide every single day that this is worth protecting, that we are worth the effort. You're the reason I'm doing this work, not to impress you, to be ready for you, to meet you as someone who's already faced his fears and learned to stay. Someone who won't run when you trigger something old. Someone who knows the difference between a reaction and a response and chooses response every time. That's my promise to the version of you I haven't met yet. I'm not waiting to grow until you show up. I'm growing now, so that when you arrive, we can focus on building us instead of fixing me. I want to tell you what forever actually means to me now. It's not what I thought it was when I was younger. Back then, forever meant never ending. A straight line that extends infinitely into the future. No breaks, no doubts, just constant certainty from the moment you meet until the day you die. But that's not real. That's a fairy tale. And I'm not building a fairy tale. I'm building something that can survive reality. Forever, to me now, means choosing again. Every morning, every argument, every moment when leaving would be easier than staying. It means looking at someone on their worst day, when they're difficult and closed off, and triggering every defense mechanism you have, and still deciding they're worth it. Not because they're perfect, because they're yours, and you're theirs. And that commitment matters more than comfort. I've spent so much time preparing for you that sometimes I forget that preparing is part of the point. This isn't just a waiting period until the real thing starts. This is the real thing, right now. Me, sitting here, choosing to believe in something I can't see yet. Choosing to grow when I could stay comfortable. Choosing vulnerability when I could stay protected. This is me loving you before I know you. And that might sound strange, but it's the most honest thing I've ever done. You know what scares me most? It's not that you won't show up. It's that you will, and I'll still be learning, still making mistakes, still catching myself falling into old patterns I thought I'd already unlearned. I won't be perfect when you arrive. I might not even be ready in the way I want to be, but I'll be trying, actively, daily, relentlessly trying. And I think that's what matters. Not that I've figured it all out, that I'm committed to figuring it out with you. But here's what nobody told me. You don't need to be healed to be ready. You need to be healing. There's a difference. Healed suggests you're finished, complete, no more work required. But humans don't work that way. We're always in process, always becoming. And the question isn't, have I arrived? It's, am I moving in the right direction? Am I becoming someone capable of the love I want to receive? That's what readiness actually looks like. Not perfection. Trajectory. I think about the moment we'll meet, how it might happen. Will I know immediately? Or will it be subtle? A conversation that feels different from all the others. A comfort I can't explain. A sense of recognition that doesn't make logical sense because we're strangers. I don't know, but I'm ready for it to unfold however it needs to. I'm not trying to control the story anymore. I'm just trying to be present when it happens. And that's when everything I believed fell apart. One more time, in the way that clears out everything false and leaves only what's true. I realized I've been so focused on being ready for you that I forgot to be ready for myself, ready to receive love, ready to believe I deserve it, ready to let myself be chosen without waiting for the other shoe to drop. That's the final wound I'm healing, the belief that good things don't last, that happiness is temporary, that if something feels too right, it's probably about to go wrong. Look at me for a second. I need you to understand something. When we meet, when this stops being theoretical and starts being real, I'm going to be scared, probably more scared than I've ever been. Because this matters. You matter. The possibility of us matters more than any rocket I've launched or company I've built. And that vulnerability, the kind where your happiness is tied to someone else's choice to stay, that's the most terrifying thing I know. But I'm willing to feel it, because the alternative is living safe and alone. And I've tried that. It doesn't work. Here's what I'm promising you. Not perfection, not certainty, not a guarantee that I'll always get it right. What I'm promising is presence, full presence, the kind where I'm not halfway out the door protecting myself from outcomes, the kind where I'm all in, even when it's uncomfortable, even when my past is screaming at me to run, even when staying requires more courage than I think I have. I'll find it. I'll stay. Because you're worth staying for. I've been practicing something lately. Gratitude for things that haven't happened yet. Gratitude for you, even though we haven't met. Gratitude for the relationship we're going to build, even though it's still theoretical. It sounds strange, but it's changing something in me. It's shifting my focus from fear of loss to appreciation of possibility. From what if this doesn't work to what if it does? What if we actually build something that lasts? Some feelings don't need words, like the feeling I get when I imagine coming home to you. Not coming home to a house, coming home to a person. To someone who knows me completely and chooses me anyway. To someone I can be silent with, and it doesn't feel empty, it feels full. To someone whose presence makes everything else make sense. I don't have words for that feeling, but I have faith it exists. And I have faith it's waiting for us. Tell me, what does forever feel like to you? Not the concept, the feeling. Is it safety? Is it excitement? Is it the absence of fear? Or the presence of something bigger than fear? I think for me, it's peace. Not the boring kind, the earned kind. The kind where you've been through storms together and you know deeply, certainly, that you can weather whatever comes next. That's what I'm building toward. Not a relationship without challenges. A relationship where challenges make us stronger instead of pulling us apart. I used to think love was about finding someone who fits perfectly into your life as it is. Someone who doesn't require change or compromise or adjustment. But that's not love. That's convenience. Real love requires transformation. It asks you to become bigger than you were, more patient, more present, more honest, more brave. It asks you to look at your selfishness and choose generosity, to look at your pride and choose humility, to look at your fear and choose vulnerability anyway. That's not easy, but nothing worth having is. Here's the thing about choosing hope after heartbreak: it doesn't erase the past, it doesn't pretend the pain didn't happen, it just refuses to let the past dictate the future. It says, yes, I've been hurt. Yes, I know how bad it can get. And no, that doesn't mean I'm closing myself off to the possibility that this time might be different. That's not naivety. That's resilience. That's wisdom earned through experience. That's the kind of hope that's actually powerful because it's been tested and survived. I don't know when you'll read this. I don't know if you're out there right now thinking about me the way I'm thinking about you. I don't know if you're scared or ready or somewhere in between. But I want you to know something. You're not alone in this. Whatever you're feeling, the doubt, the hope, the fear that maybe forever doesn't exist, I'm feeling it too. And I'm choosing to believe anyway. Not because I have proof, because I've decided that living with hope is better than living without it. Even if I'm wrong, even if it breaks me again, I'd rather be broken trying than whole and closed. So here's my final truth. You're the reason I still believe in forever. Not because you've proven it's possible, because believing in you makes me possible. It makes me braver, softer, more human, more willing to risk everything for the chance at something real. And if that's not love, if that's not the beginning of forever, then I don't know what is. I'm ready now, not perfectly, but genuinely. I'm ready to meet you, to know you, to build something with you that's bigger than either of us alone. I'm ready to choose you every day and let you choose me. I'm ready to believe that this time, finally, forever isn't just a word, it's a promise we keep together. And I'm ready to find out if you believe it too.